Today we're going to talk about the library manager, how to add a library, how to delete libraries, how to change library, how to select a library revision, namespaces, and a little bit about placeholders right after this. Alright, today we're going to talk about the library manager, but to do that I have created two libraries for us to play around with. The first one here is called YouTube Demo Library, and the second one is called YouTube Test Library. As you can see in the library, they both have the same addit, subit functions, and you're going to see that they have the same dependencies in the library manager. Alright, so here's our project, and the library manager is found underneath the application. If you double click on it, this window will open up. And normally you will see a whole bunch of libraries here. I've deleted them for the purpose of this video. At the top of the library manager you'll see a bunch of buttons. The buttons are Add Library, Delete Library, Properties, Details, Placeholders, Library Repository. The two most common buttons you're going to use is Add Library and Library Repository. Add Library is used when you have a library that's already installed into Machine Control Studio and you just want to add that library to your project. Library Repository is used when you have a library that someone's given you or that you've written and it's not been installed into Machine Control Studio. You also use the Library Repository to delete libraries that you no longer want in your library repository. But for the most part, there's no real reason to delete them unless you find a library is particularly bad. So for our demonstration, I created two libraries, and you'll see that under miscellaneous, here are my two libraries. I got my YouTube Demo Library and my YouTube Test Library. If you expand this, you'll notice that you can see the different versions of the library. I'm going to click on this one and I'm going to uninstall it. You can see it doesn't take a long time to get rid of the library. Now I'm going to reinstall it by clicking Install. You navigate to where it is in your computer, select the library, and you'll notice the extension is .compiled library. Well, if you come down here to the bottom right, you have an option for just .library. This option is a non-compiled library. What that means is if you give a customer a library that you didn't compile, that would allow them to see the source code. That is what a .library is. A compiled library, it's just compiled like it says. So this one's compiled. I'm going to open it. And you're going to see that it showed me exactly where it put the library. It put it back under miscellaneous. And the reason it's under miscellaneous is because I did not give it a name and other features needed to put it under certain categories. We'll talk about that later in a different video. So now that both of our libraries are installed into our Machine Control Studio, I want to add them to my project. To do that, I go to Add Library. You'll see a window that looks much like this, depending on your version of the software. This window again allows you to browse and select your library, but you'll notice it doesn't let me select the actual revision of the library. If I was to click on this and hit OK, it would add it to my project and it would tell me what revision it is. But you'll notice on the left side it says placeholder template. Basically, it's not going to give me any control of what version of the library I want to use. It's always going to use the latest and greatest or however it's been set up. So I'm going to delete this library. I'm going to add the library again, but this time I'm going to use Advanced. After you click the Advanced, you're going to get a window that has a few more options. You're going to see that it shows a library tab and a placeholder tab. So if you use the placeholder tab, it'll import it just like the last time we clicked on things. If we come over to library tab, we have more control. So I'm going to go over to all companies, select miscellaneous, and you'll notice this time when I click on the demo library, I have the option to select my version of the library. In this case, I only have one choice. However, I also can choose this star. What this means is I want to always use whatever the latest and greatest library is. So if you install this library multiple times and you keep updating the revision number, then Machine Control Studio will always use the newest revision. So I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to add the other library. So here's our two libraries, and if we click on them, you'll notice that here's our functions below. And you'll notice when I click on it, there's some information on the right side about each of these blocks. Now, because this is a bad library and it was just meant for this demonstration, I didn't put any comments or description in any of this. If it was a good library, there'd be all sorts of information over here. You'll also notice that this library only shows one dependency. And this library here shows that I have 3 dependent libraries. In the beginning of this video, I showed that both of these libraries have the same dependencies. And the reason why this library is not showing them all is because you can hide things by right-clicking on the library, going to Properties, and select Hide This Reference. Now, this isn't going to do anything because we installed it directly in our project, but if it was a library you created, this would hide the library. Okay. The other thing you'll see here that's very useful is this one that says only allow qualified access to all identifiers. What this means is that when you write your code, you are forced to write the namespace of the library when you try to access a block. Let me show you what I mean. Right here, you can see the namespace of this library is called YouTube Demo. So if I try to use it, I'm going to add something from YouTube Demo, like this add block, right? You'll notice that when it goes to auto-declare the add it block, that it forced this YouTube Demo in the front of it. This is very handy, especially when you have multiple libraries with the same functions. For example, my YouTube Demo has a add it function, and my YouTube test has an add it function. Now, if you didn't have the namespace here, how would the code know which one of these add it functions you really wanted to use? Well, it wouldn't, and that is why the namespace is nice. Now, if you don't like the namespace, Machine Control Studio does allow you to customize the namespace. If you right-click on the library, go back to Properties, you'll notice right here it says Namespace. You could change it to anything you want. So I could change it to cat, and I could change the other one to dog. So now you'll notice over here it's not happy. It says YouTube Demo. Well, we don't have any libraries with the namespace YouTube Demo. So if I go over here and change this to dog, you'll see that it's now happy. I probably also should change that here. So if I wanted to use both libraries add its, because maybe one's better in one way and one's better in a different way, I could do this. Right? All right, so here we go. I'm using the same function but from 2 different libraries. All right, so now if you come back over here to the library, you can right click on it, go to Properties, and you'll notice that on the right side it says specify a version. If you click on it, you can change the version. Well, maybe you didn't like this version, so you could change it back to this version. Hit OK. It's now going to use that version. Or you could go back to Properties and you can select newest version always, and then it always uses the newest version. Alright, so at the top you'll notice there's this placeholder. If we click on it, this lists all the placeholders that are being used by the device. Okay? If you come back over to this device, right click on it and click on Update Device, select the device that it is, hit Update, you'll notice that Machine Control Studio repopulated all of the libraries that I deleted out of the project. You may not use all of these libraries in your particular project, but there's a good chance that you'll use these libraries, and that's why it's putting them in here. For example, you might not use the CT Advanced library, so you could probably delete it and get away with it, but you're going to get this warning. Also, when you click on a library and you click Details, it's going to show you a few extra things like the full title of the library, the version, when it was created, a list of functions. So if you want to see when it was created, you go click on More. It gives you the dates. You know the routine. Thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you hate it. If you want something else, put a comment below.